Hello, how are we? Are you having a good first day with the HR in Dava? Yes? Are we all drained and tired? I hope not, because I'm all the way from Ireland and I've been waiting all day for this talk. There's beers afterwards, which, as an Irishman, I will definitely be indulging in as soon as this is finished. So please join me for any questions or insights you'd like to dig deeper. I have a couple of colleagues here. But today, my name is Burgess, that's been introduced, and I'm from LinkedIn Ireland, and I work the South African region. What I'll be doing today is talking around the disruption of technology, data, and insights into the world of HR. If I speak too fast, you'll have to let me know. It's a trait of an Irishman. We speak very quickly. So, the evolution of HR, what that means. Well, before we get into that, I think it's important we have a bit of fun, all right? We're here to connect with people in our esteemed industry. They'd say never to do this live on stage or do something, a demonstration, but what we're going to do is, I'm going to disrupt you all and ask you all to take out your mobile devices, take out your mobile phone. Please go to your LinkedIn app, and we are going to test South African Wi-Fi. Let's see what happens. So, what I'd like you to do is go onto your LinkedIn app and follow the steps on stage. Click Open LinkedIn app, click My Network, tap Find Nearby, and follow the prompts. Make sure your Bluetooth is on, people. And what we're going to do is we're going to start connecting people all around the room with each other. So if you have a different app, when you click Network, there'll be a blue little button at the bottom. It's the newest one. Click that and it'll do the same thing. And I'm going to do it live on stage and see who connects with me. So bear with me. Technology. Are we all starting to see each other and connect? So bear with me. I'm going to do my one live on stage. And I'm going to connect. So who is nearby? Find nearby. Where is everyone? It's looking for it. So hold on. Let's see who can connect with me. Kyla Dawn. Kyla Dawn? Are you there? Someone's connected to me. Thank you for the connection. Janice Corte. Are you here? Janice, just connected. How are we? Josie King? Oh, we're beside each other. Okay, fair enough. Is everyone starting to connect to each other? Can we see other people? So the point of that is today, as LinkedIn, is about connectivity. So hopefully, by you all connecting with each other, standing here today, maybe we'll have influenced something that may change a life or influence something later down the line. Maybe a job opportunity, maybe a business development or a lead or a sale or maybe a partnership. So connect with each other. That's what we're here for. Okay? Digitally disrupting the world of HR. So you can do that in your own time. So to take you back away from your devices and back on me, I'd like to give you a little bit of a background on me and my profession and my skill set and kind of where I came about and what I'm passionate about in order to talk about these topics. So one, I'm a people person. So you'll see a few pictures on stage, which is me dealing with other people in sports, in my team and work, and also with my colleagues, and this is a customer of mine. I'm a huge, huge people person. I love building relationships, and I love talking to individuals and getting different perspectives on life and life experiences. And the reason for that is, even for example, when I was a young kid, I would come home from holidays without the joys of digital devices like iPhones or technology. And I'd come home from holidays, my mother wouldn't be happy because I have a list of 2 or 3 friends from different countries, and I'd be calling them to catch up on sport and other things when I was 12, 13, 15, which basically meant I had a really high phone bill. And my mother was not happy. So the disruption of technology didn't happen then. But about me, personally, again, I just love dealing and building relationships, and that's probably why I'm working with LinkedIn right now. I started off in talent acquisition, fresh-faced, finished my career, or my college career, so to speak, and I got my first interview, and I ended up in recruitment. I ended up working for one of the largest brands in the world, Manpower Recruitment, and I spent 4 years there. But it was during that time, and it was actually the very first placement I made, that connection between someone and an opportunity, that kind of inspired me. And that's what kind of gets me up every day, is having the ability to influence people's lives. And that one-to-one, I still know who they are, I still keep an eye on them, and we're still connected, and I keep track of their career, just out of pure interest. But that was what started the world of talent acquisition and influencing myself. And that led me to LinkedIn. And LinkedIn's mission, what I'm doing now with the organization, is I'm working with some of the most locally progressive and forward-thinking businesses in South Africa. And what we're doing is we're using data and insights to gain a competitive advantage at developing, hiring, and attracting talent. But the beauty about that is my time with these customers, I'm influencing people getting new opportunities and taking a step in their career at scale. So we use influenced hires at LinkedIn. It's an ROI metric. Basically, what I'm now working with my customers is how many hires has LinkedIn influenced for that business. And that's me making an influence on someone's life, but also an impact on the business. And that's what gets me up every day. So I've moved from people, and then my love for data is driving that every day with LinkedIn. I love data, I love technology, and I'm a big passion for that. So, people, data, technology. What does that mean? Before we talk about HR, we need to really look at the top level of our organizations. And the reality is we need to care about what our CEOs care about so that we can be more progressive and more forward-thinking. The reality is the number one thing that CEOs care about in today's day and age is attracting and retaining top talent. People. People grow business. People make businesses profitable. People make business progressive. Developing next generation leaders. I was in the breakout room earlier on, and I was listening to the Millennials speech. I don't know, was anyone in the breakout room earlier on, number one, about Millennials? That video was pretty cool. I have a colleague who's a Millennial. I sent it to her. She didn't take the feedback very well, but it was brilliant. I loved it. It's so relevant, and it's so accurate. And that's what CEOs care about. Well, what do our next generation leaders care about? Disruptive technologies, so is LinkedIn playing a part? ATIs, databases, whatever it may be. So these are the top three things that they care about. And that means HR need to care about them, and the world of work need to care about them. So, before we go into that, I'm setting the scene, so to speak, we need to talk about the fourth industrial revolution, which you're all probably aware of. It's top of mind at the minute. But we need to take a step back from the fourth industrial revolution and look at the first industrial revolution. First industrial revolution, steam-powered trains in the UK, textile industry blew up. We look at the second. We look at mass production in the second industrial revolution, and that would be steel, the creation of the light bulb and electricity. We then move into the third industrial revolution, or often known as the digital revolution, which is basically because it created the internet and created things like the home computer. The fourth industrial revolution is considered the most disruptive because what it does is it means that us as people are relying on technology within our daily lives. And a man who created a book in 2016 and probably created the whole buzz of the fourth industrial revolution is a man called Klaus Schwab. It was created in Switzerland, and he has an interesting book called The Fourth Industrial Revolution. So if you're interested in it, read it. It's very insightful. But the reality is, he said there was a technological disruption that is happening in our marketplace today. And that leads us into these four pillars of the fourth industrial revolution. And what does that look like? Well, it looks like big data. What's happening in today's world? Data production is expected to double every 2 years. Data production is expected to double every 2 years for the next decade. That's massive. AI and automation, the use of bots. In my opinion, don't be afraid of bots. They can only make you more productive and more successful in your day-to-day role. The reality is, when it comes to the Internet of Things, this is probably one of my favorite stats. In 2017, 8 billion devices were connected to the Internet. In 2020, 20 billion devices. That is frightening in terms of how we are having to rely on connectivity. It all leads back to how we develop, hire, and attract talent, which I'll get to eventually. In terms of 3D printing, just to give you a conceptual idea, in 2015, 3D printer sales were about 200,000. In 2020, they'll be at 2.4 million sales. That's the type of growth we're seeing in disruption of technology, combined with biological advancements. You can now get a 3D hip replacement. You can now get 3D biological arms. It's fascinating. Is anyone in the room here? Has anyone watched the Bill Gates Bill Gates documentary on Netflix? Anyone? Hands up. Riaz, I know you. A few. The use of data and technology is inherent in that series. If you think it's episode 2, and Bill Gates talks about removing polio from Nigeria. And he talks about he's been doing this and pumping billions of dollars with Warren Buffett in for years and years and years. But they can't eradicate polio. And they discovered the main reason why polio kept popping up in certain regions in Nigeria was actually the people that were administering the vaccines were using old British handwritten maps. So they were missing out, right? They were missing out villages, and it was popping back up. But what I'm talking about, why that's relevant to data, is obviously Bill Gates has billions of dollars, but he used a satellite to get a visual of Nigeria and pinpoint what they were missing. And then he imported a massive data sheet on how he can use data and technology to implement the vaccines and getting that out to those organizations. He is considerably doing that right now. It's a fascinating watch. Anyone hasn't watched it, again, I hugely recommend it. When we think of AI and automation or technology, I love technology, and to give you a prime example, in Ireland, in the healthcare space, we have digital doctor. I do not need to leave my house to get a prescription over the phone. I now Skype call, or my doctor will arrange an appointment to call me, and I get my prescription over the phone, and I go to my latest chemist. It's amazing what technology is doing. My window cleaner. I get my windows cleaned once a month. I go on an app, I pick a slot. He then sends me the PayPal invoice, I pay him, and I come home and my windows are clean. Now, I actually don't know if they're clean. I've just been doing it for the last while, but I presume he's cleaned them because I'm paying him for the service. But that is the use of technology in today's day and age. And I want to talk about that a little later on when it comes to attracting talent and understanding what talent needs, what you need, and how it would affect your organization. Talking about automation, well, 41% of activities, today's technologies, up to 41% of activities in South Africa are susceptible to automation. So don't fear the bots, don't fear the automation, embrace it. Because the reality is, the more you embrace automation, it's going to have a knock-on effect and create brand new roles and new jobs that probably don't exist tomorrow, or today, should I say. That's the caveat. So embrace it. Talking about growth and technology, I want to ask a question. Anyone know what this stadium is? Anyone? Ellis Park? This is Ellis Park. So during the start, I'll give you an insight into LinkedIn's data. At the start of the HR Indaba, and by the end of my talk, in terms of new members joining LinkedIn globally, we will have filled Ellis Park. Right? That's the type of progression and the type of member base we have in the ecosystem. When we talk about members on LinkedIn and the data, I want to educate you slightly on what this means for someone like Kate. You all may use LinkedIn. You may think, yep, I have a job title, I have my experience there, I have where I work, and that's what they know. Well, actually, it's wrong. This is something we call identity data. Identity data is very simple: your name, your profile, and what we can see from the outside. But underneath that, we have engagement. Apologies for some of the font. The technical team had an issue with my presentation, so I'll have to explain that. But engagement is the next form of data. And this is things that Kate's doing. Is she joining groups? Is she reading and listening to certain content? Is she visiting company pages, applying for certain jobs, following thought leaders? Does she care about professional development of herself? Is she seeking career advice or a mentor? That's engagement. And beyond that, we go one level further and we look at intent. So this builds us a profile in LinkedIn of actually the intent of that individual on the profile. And we can use this intent and this data that you're seeing today on Kate to help organizations plan, develop, and hire winning talent. So what we see here, we see she believes in a driven mission organization, so that's what she cares about. That is also reflective to the talk earlier on about millennials. Does your company have a purpose? Can they get involved in that purpose? We look at, has she liked the comment, or is she following a certain leader? And does she aspire to be a senior manager? Or what is she doing to upskill herself in management? And when we understand all that, we can feed you as an organization and our clients that ability to attract people with the right type of cultural and skill set and mindset for your organization, not just based on their job title and where they work. So it's far deeper than you may imagine. This is LinkedIn's ecosystem. So talking about our platform, 645 million members, 30 million jobs, 20 million open jobs at any time, 50,000 skills, and 90,000 schools globally. We'll fill Ellis Park today. But the reality is, when I joined LinkedIn 4 years ago, 5 in November, we were at 300 million members. So we've doubled member base during my time. What that means for South Africa is we are close to 8 million members right now. 21,000 skills, 100,000 companies, 64,000 jobs, and 8,000 schools. That is the LinkedIn ecosystem. Our mission is to create economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce. The reality is here, This is your audience. These are the Kates of this world, those 7 million people. And we want to talk to you about how we can use our data to help you within your HR team and your organization and your CEOs make smarter decisions. So we need to think differently of HR. We need to start moving from a data-informed environment to a data-led. We should be using data to take decisions strategically, remove the gut feeling, remove the instinct, and help us inform. So we have a formula or a pattern in LinkedIn that fits exactly in with the model of today. Discover, learn, grow. Just a slightly different twist on it. We have plan, hire, and develop. Plan, how can you use data in insights to help you plan your hiring strategy, plan your HR strategy, plan your business's growth? How can you use that information to make smarter decisions in real time? How can you use that decision or that data to understand skill gaps? So if you're looking for a particular skill set for your organization or type of skill, how can we use that? How can we leverage your employer brand to position you for that skill set? And lastly, how do we develop your workforce? It's all well and good when you get them. It's all well and good when you hire them, but we need to develop them. Talk about millennials, they need feedback. I was having a conversation with a client this week, and we were talking about engagement. And the number one thing that their organization wants, or their talent, or their people are looking for is feedback, and they're not getting it. And that's the expectation. So we're going to talk about that in deeper detail. But let's talk about plan. So I'll be going back and forth in between plan, hire, develop, and how that is a platform and a formula we use in LinkedIn with our organizations to help them to gain a competitive advantage and work smarter, not harder. So plan, using data and insights to inform your attraction and your development strategy. It kind of looks a little like this. This is the typical 5 use cases. There's many others, but this is the typical things that we see in the world of talent that people need to use data for. So we work with organizations on how to inform their hiring strategy. How do we use data and information to go back to a hiring manager and say, no, there's 2 of these in all of Joburg and they work with us. So we need to set expectations here about how we hire this talent. Employer branding. This is the number one most important thing in today's day and age in HR, employer branding. I think the lady inside talked about, I can't remember her name, apologies for the millennial piece again, leveraging her, she talked about EVP. EVP is a fluffy word. I sit with organizations too often and they tell me, and I ask them, well, what is your EVP? What are you doing? How are you different? The biggest, we're the second largest player in the African market. We're the second largest player in South Africa. We're the biggest bank. We're this. That is not an EVP. That doesn't attract talent. That doesn't keep talent. That is a statement. So if you're going to enforce an EVP, be real to it and stand to it and stand behind it and use actions to enforce that and tell that story. So what we do is we use data in LinkedIn to say, hold on, this is the intent. So if we go back to Kate, here's the intent. Here's what she cares about. So can we match our EVP and target her with things that are relevant for her to get her attracted to our organization? Competitive intelligence. Again, I was sitting with another business on Monday in Cape Town, and we ran a report and some of the tools we have within data, and we actually found out that they have a direct competitor with 15 employees in Angola, and that CEO was starstruck. He was like, who the hell are they? Why are they in Angola? And what's going on? And that raised an immediate conversation at board level that I had to exit. But that was a conversation to get a competitive analysis. You can understand what your competitor are doing, how they're hiring, who they're hiring from, what's happening in the talent map, and then how do we react? So data-led for employer branding, data-led to get one up on your competition. Geolocations, pretty simple really. Well, if we need to hire this person in that location, do they exist? Are they there? Is it a viable office space? Are we going to have problems with attracting talent there? If you do, and you've done it without making data an informed part of that strategy, you could waste a lot of money trying to hire a lot of people that don't exist in that location. Workforce planning, craft data-driven plans for talent acquisition, and that's helping you retain staff. So again, the feedback, using data and insights to say, well, actually, what does our audience care about? What does our employees care about? What's driving them? And how do we engage with them so that we can retain them longer and develop them? That's the plan. You have to walk before you run, yeah? Again, when we think about plan and we think about society now, think about sports. Rugby World Cup time, Ireland playing New Zealand on Sunday. Probably not going to go well for us. South Africa, Japan, will the worst happen again? You know, who knows? But I'm talking about sports because nowadays, in reflection to millennials in sports, and I play quite a bit, the expectation of what those players need, who are employees, around data and their role in that team and how they react when they put that jersey on is driven by data. They're all sitting on the bench talking about iPads, how far are they running, how many tackles have they made. It's the same kind of concept when it comes to employee attracting talent. It's the same with sports. People are, the society or the millennials of today's age are just sponges. I did a talk in Stellenbosch University on Monday evening with 200 students talking about the world of LinkedIn and why they should be on it. I did a presentation for an hour. I was an hour and a half afterwards acting nearly as a career guidance counselor because these people wanted to talk about their career. They're just sponges and that's what they care about. So we need to adapt to that. And to be honest with you, I've also a 15-year-old brother and a 17-year-old sister, and they will challenge the hell out of you no matter what it is. Okay, so that's what's happening nowadays. This is what we refer to as the strategy or the funnel, okay? The journey, the candidate journey. And you need to think about this. It's imperative for your employer brand. Too many times I'm having conversations with big organizations that want to go straight from aware, straight to consider. That doesn't happen nowadays. It doesn't happen. We need to start filling up the top of this funnel, and that's where the plan piece comes in. You're preparing to go to market. You know what they care about. You know what matters. And then when you hit them, we immediately are making them aware. We're bringing them through a process that gets them engaged, liking, sharing, commenting. What's their EVP? Is there a purpose? Moving into considered, and then straight down into your strategy and being actually a bum on seat in your organization. And this is the funnel that we live and die by within our organization because it's imperative. And as I said, people are wanting to go from here straight to here. And then they end up outsourcing, end up paying a large amount of fees on resourcing fees because all they want is that bum on seat now. You need to think about the future and you need to react to change. And that's what's happening. And that's the kind of funnel and the data insights that we use. We also need to look at the top priorities for the next 5 years when it comes to actually attracting that talent and getting them into the funnel. It's very top of mind that keeping up with rapidly changing hiring needs is so at the forefront of everything we're doing. It's the whole concept of today. Discover is plan, learn is hire, and we'll move into develop. But the reality is we need to keep up with recruitment technology, automation, bots. How can we help our HR teams? How can we help our talent acquisition team spend more time talking to top talent than sifting through the others? How do we leverage data effectively? I think that's the biggest concern in today's day and age is that there is so much data out there, so much access to information, but how do we know where to find the best piece of content? How do we find the best data? How do we use that in real time? Well, organizations are working with LinkedIn based on some of those things I'm telling you to have real-time data. Again, I'm using examples. I was talking with a customer yesterday, this morning, and they were telling me, they're an insurance broker, and they were telling me that they had an organization a consultancy talking about talent maps, and they needed a talent map. But the reality was, one, they were charging a huge amount of extortionate fees, like a consultancy, to give you this talent map. And secondly, when they give it to you, because it takes 6, 8, 10 weeks, it's out of date. Everything's changed in 10 or 12 weeks. With LinkedIn's platform and our data, we can do this in real time. I can sit with a client and say what happened yesterday and what's happening tomorrow. That's the reality, and that's how you gain a competitive advantage when it comes to using data to be data-led, not data-informed. So, when it comes to hiring, I want to use a very real-life example. We've talked about the disruption of technology, fourth industrial revolution. We're talking about how that plays a part in today's day and age when it comes to attracting talent. I'm going to talk about one of the most prevalent and prominent skills gaps in today's market, the digital skills gap, and what that means for South Africa. So quite local for this purpose. We can do this for HR. I can do this for finance, but I'm focusing on technology given today's topics. To embrace technologies, companies need to win digital talent, and this is what we in LinkedIn encompass as digital skills. Things as enterprise software, game development, cybersecurity, computer network. These are things that we class as digital skills, people with those profiles. The reality is, in South Africa, almost 12% of the LinkedIn population have these skills. So they're out there. We're all struggling to hire them. But again, in my opinion, it comes straight back to EVP. I used to recruit tech. I used to recruit IT developers. They are the most egocentric individuals you'll ever meet. They love themselves. More than Conor McGregor. They love themselves, right? So when you in-mail them, all they'll ask you is what's the pay. The reality is we need to start thinking differently about the stack. Well, what does our organization have in terms of an EVP? Do we give certain things that other organizations don't? And they're the stories we need to tell. Real life stories tell a million, are just inevitable. They're so profitable. Stories are amazing. So if you have a developer in your organization and he's gone through a massive amount of change, interview him. Interview him, put it out there, and he'll tell you exactly what it's like as a developer. Some of my slides are a bit messed up. I've only realized as I got here, so bear with me. But what I want to talk about is digital hires in the last 12 months. Okay? If anyone needs these slides after, please come up to me. I'm happy to send them. But the reality is the number one kind of industry that is hiring talent is the usual, right? Software. Finance is second, 9.1. Corporate, media. And as we go down, we see manufacturing and retail. But what I want to talk about is change and disruption. So we know the tech companies and the finance houses are all trying to change and digitally transform. But the number one performing in terms of transformation is, by nearly 15%, is retail. Retail is the most digitally transforming market in Africa at this time. Design, media communications, manufacturing. If anyone knows the farming and mineral company, GWK, we work closely with them. They use data and insights to drive their farming business. Everybody can use it correctly. If we think about retail, think about Amazon right now. You can walk into an Amazon store in America, it bings your phone, you fill up your basket, you walk out, and you've paid for it. And you haven't dealt or talked to anyone. And that's what's happening nowadays. That's the automation piece. Yes, it might remove cashiers, it might be front desk clerks, but it's actually putting a lot of people in the back end of the store to make sure the shelves are backfilled and how those robots work. So it's creating a whole new era of jobs. Digital professionals in South Africa are hugely mobile. If they keep leaving your organization, don't take it personally. They don't hate you. They are just hugely mobile. Okay? They move around a lot. The average now is, I think, 2 to 3 years a person will stay in an organization. Times have changed. No one wants to stay in an organization for 10, 15 years unless they have a real deep purpose. So you need to understand that and think that if we hire these, we need to embrace that they may move on. But let's be prepared for that and use data and insights to help our hiring strategy. Take me, for example, in terms of digital. I am a huge sneaker fan. I love trainers, sneakers, and I spend too much money on them, and my wife hates it. I come home from work with new pairs of runners because I use that as my post office, and she goes crazy. I have a room just for some runners, just a small room, and I don't put them on top of each other. They have to be side by side, so my OCD kicks in. But she goes crazy. She's like, can you not put them on top of each other? I was like, no, you can't put a dirty pair on top of a clean pair. So this is me, and this is how I buy things digitally. I use Instagram, because I can't go to the store to find the runners I like. They're maybe rare or in different countries. So I use Instagram to digitally think, do I like that brand? Am I engaging with them? And this is my journey. I click on the profile. I may see a pair I like. I may click on it and automatically I'm brought into the shoe. And then second from that, I'm brought to the basket. And in 3 days, they're in my hand. That's how we need to think about, that's a consumer model, but we need to think the exact same model when it comes to filling up your funnel with talent. How do we get them through that? How do we build, and it's all down to your brand presence and your employer branding. You know? And this is the biggest statement you'll hear today. If you do not market, if you don't give the market a story to talk about, they will define your brand for you, especially as millennials. That is the most impactful statement that you might hear today, in my opinion. And it all stems back to, if you're thinking about hiring and you're not evaluating your EVP, you need to think again. In my personal opinion, you need to work closer with marketing. Too many businesses are not aligned with marketing. If you market yourself better, the talent will come. And that's not happening. Too many times they're operating in silo. We need to get better synergy as a business. And the reality is it impacts both of your business lines. People are too busy doing their own thing in marketing, and HR are too busy doing their own thing. And that's fine. But the companies I see succeed are the ones marrying that. Or I was in a business again last week, and they told me that they were thinking, and I've heard this 3 times now in the last 2 weeks, that they're thinking about hiring a digital or an SEO or someone to do marketing just for the HR function. So basically it's creating a whole new role. Finally, she says, finally. And that's what's happening. So either changing, either marketing or doing it, or we're just going to hire someone in HR. But we need to embrace it. And your employer brand is the reason why you're going to attract top talent. Develop. So we've talked about data. How do we go out there and search for them? How do we understand what they care about? We used hire, your employer brand. What type of information can we use on this audience to attract them? What matters? What intent have they got? Now develop. Okay, how do you retain them? How do you keep them? How do you use insights to retain them? Well, we give you the intent data. So what does this audience care about? This is digital people within South Africa. Yes, I'll be upfront, compensation and benefits is usually top 3. Let's be honest, that's fine, right? But this will change we can change this data based on function, skill sets, etc. But for this particular balance, it's exactly what I talked about earlier. Good work-life balance, flexible work arrangements. Does your EVP allow a working mother with 3 work from home when she needs to work from home? And I do not know that potentially until I'm going for interview, and that could be too late. We need to tell those stories. Have you got a flexible work-life balance? Is the work challenging? If I was looking at a core software developer, challenging work is nearly number 1, right? And flexible work arrangements. Coders are coders. They want to sit in their room, they want to do that project, and they'll do it in their own time. They don't want to be coming in, clocking 9 to 5. To be honest with you, they don't even want bean bags and ping pong tables, what people think. They're nice to haves, but if the code or the stack is fun and good enough, they don't care. Get managers involved when it comes to learning. The biggest mistake. Don't tell them they have to learn, involve management. So in order to develop them, we can use data to help understand that 75 employees, your employees, would take a course if their manager assigned it. Sometimes when it comes to e-learning, there's a barrier of entry. It's, I don't want to learn. I know it's a fear. Whereas with millennials, it's just second nature. They'll learn as many skill sets as possible. But what they need to do is they also need encouragement, and they need feedback, and they need to understand, actually, if we're going to do this, what's relevant for me? So my manager's in the crowd. If I was to have a one-to-one with him, he's going to tell me, look, here's your strengths, here's your weaknesses. Maybe potentially do a course on this. Maybe elevate yourself here. And that's only making me a better person. And I love that type of feedback. That's constructive. To almost conclude, and what I want to talk about is how we celebrate success. So tomorrow, we have a couple of customers in the room that may be attending. We have the South African Talent Awards happening tomorrow here in Joburg. And what we're doing is we're celebrating success, and we're celebrating data. So these are customers. If you take it right back to what I talked about influencing hires and influencing lives and careers, we are celebrating customers that are influencing the most amount of hires and the most amount of people. This is happening tomorrow. We have an award for best culture of learning. So an organization that is engaged with learning their employees. We have a best culture of employer brand. What company is portraying their employer brand and giving that message the most productively? And again, we have an award for best talent acquisition team. So who's the best at hiring and going out there aggressively and finding talent? And that's what we're celebrating tomorrow. So if you can work with us as a partnership, these are things that we'll be doing. We'll be using data to, let's recap, plan. How do we walk before we run? How do we make smarter decisions? How do we make informed decisions? And how do we make an impact at nearly CEO level? How can we use this data to help our conversation up-level internally? Develop. Okay, so what does our audience care about? No matter what their skill or what their nature is or what their background, how do we help them understand that this is what they care about, so let's go after them? And then how do we develop and retain them? Because the biggest thing is retention. So I'll leave you, as I finish today, with one final quote, and probably the most impactful, I think, in terms of change. And that is, the pace of change has never been this fast, yet will never be this slow again. So either change or die. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.